But Dawnbreaker, okay. I think there's your melee 5 for Prada, but that's an interesting direction to take it in because that doesn't do either of the other two options I had mentioned before. Kind of doesn't do their job at all. No silence from the Disruptor, no more decay, none of that strength gain for the Tidehunter to make him squishier. So they're kind of rounding out their lineup in a way. And at the very least, something that always happens whenever you play versus Ember Spirit, the more heals you can get, it just feels like that slight just does ever so little damage. If you could suddenly become more durable than what he's putting out, then, well, that mid game just kind of rolls along. And if Ember can't get something done, he is a skill-based hero. It doesn't have that kind of automatic feature that heroes like Puck or Queen of Pain have, where you hit 6, you immediately have damage. Ember definitely has to, I think, work for it a little bit harder. In Sky too, okay. Not a lot of lockdown for him, but everything is on Mariano at this point. We're going to need to see a crazy performance from him, but then they have got the magic burst.
Yeah, they certainly have damage to work with here, but it comes down to Mars, and it comes down to maybe your Skyrith gets in position for a slow or a silence. Neither of those, though, are going to be game-changing, I suppose, in these fights, unless this Sky is just unbelievable with his positioning and timing, which certainly could happen, but that is far from a sort of guaranteed role that he can play. So Infinity rolling the dice a little bit here, taking a bit of a risk, as you were sort of mentioning. If the damage can sort of power through, maybe you don't need the lockdown? I don't know. It doesn't feel comfortable, but I can see the rewards if it does pan out for them.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit worried with the Sky pick because, of course, you look at King of Kingston, I mean, they've got an Ember Spirit, they have a Weaver. If he's not incredibly careful, he is just dead. He is just going to get ran at, and that is a really, really good pick. Not only does the TA not really have the best option now, and I'm assuming that we might see the Tidehunter shifted over to 5, something that we saw 2-base do yesterday. It just feels like this is actually going to round out their lineup perfectly. Suddenly, that problem that the Skyrith had before about approaching and actually entering into these team fights is now exasperated. You've got Boars, you've got Hawks, you've got so much to deal with now. Not to mention, we didn't see a hero like the Terrorblade or a Scotty user picked up for King of Kings just yet. But Beastmaster is almost pseudo right there with the Boars. TA is going to have an incredibly difficult time now getting into these engagements. And if he's not careful, then suddenly I think this fight might just be over. It's just that big of a slam pick. And you're playing versus a melee 5. Of course, I think melee 5s are a little bit more gifted towards Beastmaster. They're definitely going to have a little bit more armor and HP to work with. But at the same time, once you get that Helm of the Dominator, the lane is a wash. And a lane where suddenly, do you put the Mars now down there versus him? You don't really have that same beefy offlaner that we sometimes see be the Vanguard against the Horde, where Mars is going to have to come down there really with the sole purpose of killing him. And I think that's where Infinity, they've got to be so careful with their spell usage, because that's your immediate objective getter. That's your, we just used 3 of our ultimates, now we can't defend mid kind of play.
Right. And now the best part for King of Kings is that they had already set up that flexibility. That Tide can shift into that 5 role perfectly, really, and you sacrifice basically nothing. He's still going to be tanky, he's still going to have that team fight presence, just might not have the itemization that very rarely ends up being necessary for the Tide. So King of Kings definitely, so far, looking like they're drafting themselves into a maybe not stronger outright position, that might be a step too far to say, but definitely something that feels more comfortable for them compared to the risk that their opponents are taking on the other side. But Infinity, I mean, they could pull it back. They could win this mid matchup. Unfortunately, they do not have the last pick, so whatever they choose here is going to be potentially picked apart by their opponents. But you got to grab something. You were mentioning earlier, pretty sure the TA was not going to slot into that mid position. Still kind of feels like that would be the case, but, well, going up against presumably the Ember Spirit here, ET, what is the choice for Infinity that's going to at least draw even in that lane?
Well, I can tell you what the horrible choice would be. It'd be they pick Shadow Fiend right now, and yeah, they're not going to go for it. Shaker is really interesting, and I was going to mention that SA is one of the few regions where they're still kind of ballsy enough to put the Mars mid if they really need to in those situations. And I think the reason that they banned out the Kunkka and the Timbersaw is because there is that bit of flexibility. They know the TA versus Ember matchup. There is a little bit of confidence. If it was going to be forced into a TA mid, TA versus Ember is one of those 50-50s where either side is going to win. Both sides are really just going to farm at the end of the day, which is absolutely what you want to do, especially when the draft becomes as fluid as it has really become with the Beastmaster pickup. So Shaker is going to be interesting. We're going to have to see really how the players slot in here because I can almost call it's probably going to be Prada Dawnbreaker. It is most likely going to be Parker TA. Is it going to be a Parker TA mid? We'll have to see. But I think Parker has been the one to really play TA more so than any other player. And they just slammed the Wraith King. Really strong, really, really most incredible carry in the game, I think, right now. Just a very easy choice for them. Is a little bit rough. We're gonna see yet again another like armor battle between the carries where who can pick up their Deso faster, who can pick up their AC faster, who can get their BKB faster. Those are the real questions to be answered in this game.
Yeah, and the answer, at least to the question of the positions there for Infinity, we do see it is the Mars going to PP while Mariano picks up the Earthshaker. So Mars mid will be the call for them, and we'll see what the mid Mars can do. In the past, it's really seemed kind of massively hit or miss in terms of how much damage that Mars can actually contribute, but if Infinity can get it going, then they are going to have at least someone on that front line that's going to be a little bit more durable and a little bit harder hitting as well.
Yeah, and especially in that mid matchup, gonna have to see just how he individually plays. Of course, Mars does have more base damage than Ember. He does have arguably a better attack animation. It's really the most annoying thing to lane versus when you are playing versus that Mars. But at the same time, with this Earthshaker last pick, we usually see this Earthshaker first phase whenever a lot of those NA teams were picking up heroes like the Storm Spirit. This Ember game just got a little bit scarier. You're always going to need to be considerate of that Fissure from the Fog, of that Blink follow-up. It's something that is going to change how this Ember Spirit plays whenever he engages in these fights. And if he doesn't take that into account, he could very easily just die. So we're going to have to see how he's going to play around the fact that this Earthshaker is going to be in the offlane positions, is going to have a little bit more gold.
Well, there we go. Sorry about that. We are getting underway here with our first match of the day. King of Kings taking on Infinity, and well, both sides up in the early smokes just to sort of get that extra movement, not really looking for any aggression. Do want to point out one or two things real quick, like here, name-wise, on the King of Kings sides. You see Serem here on the Tide. Serem, also known as Nuages. I'm not sure if this is a permanent change or not. He's sort of been going by both. And I do believe... Oh, hold on. Taking a couple of tower shots there. And I do believe also another similar situation. We got Hane here. Hane, aka Jupiter, for anyone who's seen him by really either of those two names. So, multiple players on the King of Kings side who go by different aliases, but they are still the same players. There have been no roster changes or anything of that nature. As a bit of a pause at the start. Not quite ready to go here. Mini needs a second as he is going to be DCing there momentarily. So hopefully we get him right back in. We can get this one underway. But LET, we mentioned yesterday the NA squads don't really like to take any sort of early risks. Some of these South American squads are not quite as averse to that, but looking at the positioning here, it doesn't really seem like we're going to see anything too crazy, especially with the early vision having been thrown down by both sides.
No, really, the craziest thing is going to be whenever this meld plan kind of heads up in the top lane where Parker gets the double meld strike off, and then I can only imagine Prana's going to throw a hammer his way, and then we'll see what happens to Sexy Fat, who is going for the Helm Dom Rush, so doesn't have the most regen, doesn't have any additional armor stats, so could very easily get punished in the game. Okay, is
Whoa.
unpausing.
Oh, he was coming back.
Okay. Jumping the gun a little bit. Yeah, the miss clock, but yeah, we'll have to see how that plan kind of ends up going, but I really don't think we're going to see too many big contests. Benny has situated himself over in the bottom lane trying to maybe steal a bounty rune, which is a little bit sneaky, and I think with this ward, even though they have this high ground vision, it might be a little bit too late, but Benny thinks better of it. Doesn't want to give away his life or any of his regen, especially knowing it's a Mars mid, definitely feels a little bit scarier, I think, to go for that play, but now all eyes on Sexy Fat. How's he going to feel after he gets double hit up, or is he going to be prepared for it? A lot of offlaners actually just go the long way if they feel it's coming, but let's see it.
Sentry gets thrown down there. Not going to spot Parker, though. Good instinct from Hane, just not the right spot, and Sexy Fat, yeah, that's not going to be fun. Actually, there's the second one. Into the hammer. Can they actually get this? One more hit.
Yep.
Oh. Well, welcome to game one, Sexy Fat. You are not having a great time so far as Parker picks himself up the first blood, and silver lining is that the boar lived, so I guess they've still got a little bit of extra lane control there, but Sexy Fat, not the start to the lane that he had been hoping for. But Parker, gotta make sure you're not taking too much damage here in exchange. He is getting hit pretty hard, and now all of a sudden that sentry that Hane put in the tree line can become a little bit more interesting. If Parker gets sort of lulled into that false sense of security, tries to go for that meld play, they could continue hitting him up, and the TA's regen's not fantastic either at this point, so who knows if they'll actually pull that bait off, but it's at least a possibility for them, as unfortunately we do have another pause. This time it's Parker who's DC'd.
Yeah, and I think that's where it's going to be a little bit concerning. Pretty much every single time the Spore gets cast, Prada's more or less going to need to use a Celestial Hammer to either deal damage to it, to slow it, or to set up for Parker, and that's a very expensive spell. It's another reason why I think this Beastmaster pick is so good in the draft. It feels like there wasn't enough time to actually get an appropriate answer for Infinity, because it's going to be very expensive, and after this Mango, I mean, literally, he's got 3 hammers left, and I think we're going to see many more boars, which is just going to be more and more problematic. Not to mention, Hannes is on the strongest form in the game, more or less. This hero is just always able to snowball and kind of get everything under control, and you're already seeing them struggle to get control of these range creeps, which is another thing that Prada has to choose. Do you choose to use your hammer to get range creeps, in which he tried and got double denied, or are you going to save it for the boar? I think it's a big problem that, again, they don't really have a solution to right now.
Very nice from Prada. He just barely gets that other sentry in range and manages to take that down. So at least Parker can breathe a little bit more easily there. But as you mentioned, this Weaver is sort of the strongest four in the game, and they do have that sort of courier snipe ward in the backline. But right now, they don't want couriers. They want kills. Parker's low. 1 or 2 more hits may be able to take him down. Hane's really going to go for it. Needed one more, though. A little bit of healing. First the Tango, now the Salve will keep Parker alive, but you take a look at where Hane and Sexy Fat are standing health-wise, that's a play that did not cost them all that much. There wasn't any sort of immediate returning of fire from the Infinity side, and get the feeling that is a combination they're going to be able to, put together pretty frequently as you see Hane just go in for the Shikuchi damage.
And right there, he just saw that they know where the sentry is, so he's probably going to play more so on this left side now, but at the same time, as this lane gets closer and closer towards that Radiant Tier 1 tower, it's just impossible for the TA to lane, and Prada has an almost impossible choice. Do you pull and then leave the TA completely alone, where if Parker steps up in the creep wave pretty much at all, he's just going to get run back to his tower? There's just not going to be a lot of farm for this TA. Even though he is kind of sitting up there with the last hits, not where you want to be. You want to definitely feel a little bit more comfortable here, and more or less all control is going to be lost in just a few minutes. Oh, tried for it, but
Quite. And I talked about sort of comfort maybe at a premium for the Infinity side. Meanwhile, for King of Kings, he checked down bot. Benny, well, he's doing relatively well against a lane that, by all accounts, should be incredibly annoying here between the Skywrath and the Earthshaker. Although, Mariano, focusing on his farm, doesn't have a point in the fissure, as up top, Prada actually does get taken down. Hane, bit of a suicide mission there as he will die for it, but they're able to get themselves on the board. The Weaver dying in exchange kind of makes that, slightly Infinity favored, but King of Kings get the experience at least, and they continue putting pressure on this top lane.
yeah, and honestly, that's the perfect situation for Infinity. If Prana dies, you get Soul XP over to Parker. It's perfect because he needs levels. He needs his lane kind of by himself, but he needs to be babysat at the same time. He just doesn't have that same just level of security, and both laners keeping their creep wave static, just tanking for the creeps, but it's still going to be incredibly difficult, as well as, I believe, Sexy Fat just doing his homework, keeping this camp more or less always blocked or scouted out with the Hawk, not letting his boars get taken down too easily either. Just a very annoying player. I think reason we weren't seeing the Weaver there, refilled the mid bottle, just everybody kind of doing their dirty work right now on the King of Kings side.
Yeah, they're just sort of taking it slow at this point, trying to really just get the most out of this laning stage as possible, as You mentioned the refill on the bottom mid. That's a lane we haven't really talked about just yet. Mini, so far is slightly behind. Take a look at the mid Mars, 22 and 10 in terms of last hit and deny count. So this middle lane is going relatively well for them. We'll see, though, how inclined PP is to actually make a rotation if he hits 6 and gets that arena. Even with the Mars in the middle lane, he's not exactly the fastest hero in the world, as Sexy Fat going to get run down in the top lane. Parker getting himself his second kill. 2-0 for the TA, so yeah, he has been sort of poked and prodded at pretty consistently, but last hit count is up there, 2 kills on the board. He may lose his support, though, as Hane's going in. The Boar's here to help out with the slow, and yeah, I don't think Prada's going to get himself out of that one. Yeah, Hane's able to take him down, so a little bit of revenge at least, but none of this is coming directly onto the TA.
Yeah, again, Parker's getting the XP, he's getting the kills, he's getting the levels. It's absolutely what you want. Danger zone now is that the Weaver does have an urn, so really, you didn't really have refraction before just because you, of course, had the bugs on you, but now it's going to be even scarier, and with the support out of the lane, good time spent as well. Get both the sentries down, deward the camps. Now there's really nothing that the Weaver has to be scared of aside from an arena rotation, but even that seems a little bit unlikely. But yeah, in the mid lane, interestingly enough, Mini's gone for, I think, an extra point in the Flame Guard just because he's going to farm a little bit more in Pamplona. I kind of stumbled upon an Ember Spirit here. Don't think anybody can kill or has enough lockdown to do anything off that, but at the same time, I think everybody is really going for that more farm-oriented style on King of Kings. They're playing more towards a 15-20 minute timing with their heroes, and it makes sense. Everybody is going to want a little bit of farm, and nobody is going to be shut down in this game, but we'll have to see what happens when the stacks are finally getting farmed and getting made, because of course there's a TA in the game. You're always going to be looking at that triangle, seeing when you're going to try and make that kind of breach play.
And for King of Kings, well, there is maybe some added incentive for them to try and slow this game down, because their opponents are the ones who are typically... Oh, hold on a moment. I'll get to that point. If Hane is able to escape, he does get away. He scouts out this rotation as well, but this is still 4 heroes coming in. TP's coming, though, from that King of Kings side, or maybe not. TP canceled, but it did its job. Forced those heroes away. You see Sarem actually back in here as well. I don't really think that's going to be much of a fight. It's just there for defensive purposes, but if you're Infinity, I like the idea, but you bring 4 heroes up there, and unfortunately, the Weaver just scouts you out, and that's a 4-man rotation that accomplishes very little.
Yeah, it was a really good scan to start it all off. It was an almost impossible angle for PP as well, just really hard. And ooh, I think Pamplona might be bullied, and there's your Weaver for you.
It's applied.
Absolutely nothing.
Did he deny
Nope.
maybe? No, okay.
Yep, one of the best tiers for a reason. And he's level 5. He's having a great game. I mean, he's got the kills all from his lane, unfortunately.
Oh, Prada, you don't want to be there.
Fat, but yep.
He's going to try for the hammer play, but that's just not going to create enough separation. They'll just continue to chase, and that's another kill for that Weaver. 4-1. God, this hero is just too good at what they need him to do. It's ridiculous. And now look at him. He's even going to go over, maybe poke at Parker a little bit. I don't know if this is a fight that he wins, but the fact that he even feels confident enough to try it sort of is a testament to where this Weaver stands in the game right now.
Yeah, and we'll see how long Parker actually decides to stay around top. He set up a lot of his traps in this lane, just trying to be very, very obnoxious. And whenever we talk about safe lane TA, it's always about the struggles getting into her territory, feeling like you can't, traverse over 5 or 6 traps to actually get to her. It's something that, yet again, though, Weaver is very adept at, just because you don't really feel the slow. You got Shikuchi. You can actually make your way into these very deep lines, and I think that's where Sarem and Jupiter, they're just doing a great job, honestly, of just playing as a unit, just being very obnoxious. If Prana stumbles onto him, it'd be very unfortunate. It'd be another kill that the Dawnbreaker would almost have to eat, and all of the couriers...
What's the couriers? Well, oh boy. Both of them sniped out. They don't go for the kill, though, because I think they suspected that this exact rotation was coming. See PP and Pamplona making their way over, so that would turn into a fight on a scale that maybe King of Kings aren't ready to deal with. So instead, they back off. Sexy Fat kept the push going, got that Dom Helm, so he's got the creep to help out, and they may not have found the kill, but that's a relatively easy tier 1 tower for them. And you see at the same time, Mini actually jumped back mid so that there would be no push onto his tier 1.
Yeah, and as long as he can still sit mid, just get levels, not really feel under any threat. The bot lane is more or less gone quiet, but Mariano,
Hey,
yeah.
he wants it. He should
Well,
get it. Whoa, the echo. Wishful thinking, not going to get it. Hane even popping the ult there just to make sure Prada wasn't going to be able to hit him up with that Starbreaker, but sure. Better safe than sorry. We're still early enough in the game where that cooldown's not going to matter too much, and they got the job done. They find a pickoff on to that Shaker. King of Kings starting to build up more and more momentum here. 2k up already, 10 minutes in. And
yeah, now
for mid, maybe. But their reinforcements are kind of getting cut off. Hane runs into both Parker and Pamplona. This one's getting a little broken up. Mini's got to get out of there. He is going to jump away to the Remnant. Should be just fine. I'll take a quick TP back to base, and oh, that one doesn't quite work out in their favor, but you see King of Kings, they're continuously looking for these openings wherever they can find them.
Yeah, and it's starting to become a game where Mariano needs his Blink Dagger before they can actually make these plays. Otherwise, you're going to kind of see them struggle to actually find their way into these team fights, because aside from that Shaker, and besides these blinks actually at all, they need to run at their opponents. That's their only way of inherently initiating, and until they get those blinks, it's gonna feel like kind of a sloppy jump, because that's just what they have. They don't really have much to work with, and I think that's where PP, he's trying to get a nice wrap actually, and this is very smart. He knows that Sexy Fat's going to be rotating from the top jungle, and they got him.
Arena into Spear. Well, okay, Prada, that was not quite a necessary ult, but it gets him into the area, and do they want to go for round 2? They already used the Arena, they used that Solar Guardian, so that does sort of leave them limited in options, and the tier 1 had already been taken at that point, so they back away, but that is a pretty impressive move. Alleviates maybe a little bit of that pressure. You get the Mars on the board somehow. He didn't get the kill, but the assist is at least going to put a little bit of gold into his pocket, and well, the only downside really is that you still do lose that tower, but if it makes more space for the Templar Assassin, then Parker's obviously going to be happy with it.
No, it's a really smart play to catch the Beastmaster off in his own rotation, but it's not too little too late. You still do get the kill, but at the same time, these towers are going to be a more and more difficult defense. It's just, we need those blinks. Yesterday, we're going to have Echo Slam in a few seconds here, or in a few minutes rather. We're going to see a Blink Dagger finished up on PP, and really, I guess, 1,500 gold. It just feels like they're still playing a little bit behind their opponents right now, just because these items are crucial and they're very expensive. This bot tower is going to make that feel a little bit easier. I think going to try and keep this card alive as long as you can, but we're going to see a play with Mariano as soon as he gets his in. He is the closest. I think PP's going to be stuck waiting a little bit longer. Meanwhile, Mini's just trying to poke and prod Parker as much as he can. Even snipes out the Black Dragon there.
He's trying to be a little bit obnoxious, and yeah, we need to see Infinity sort of find their moment to really pick up the tempo a little bit. That's been sort of the calling card for this team through that first tour in the DPC. They won 14 games, ET 11 of those wins. They finished the game before 40 minutes, so they like to sort of take control as quickly as possible, really dominate the mid game, and then close things out before it gets late. And I mean, we're 13 minutes in, so I wouldn't say that they're in danger of missing on that window, but within the next 10 to 15, we're going to need to see them really shift that momentum. And as you were mentioning, the Blink Daggers may just have to be the deciding factor. Mariano is so damn close to finishing his, but we'll see what they can find, because Mariano initiating is great, but they are going to need a little bit more in the way of damage, going to need to bring some of those other cores in if they really want to take those fights.
Well, and not just that, they have to be careful on who they actually find, because you're not going to be looking for this Wraith King. You're not going to be trying to pop his reincarnation, and at the same time, Ember is not an easy grab. That's the reason they picked up the Skywrath Mage. It's just that you have that initial silence, you have something to actually catch him off guard, because unless you're getting him with, again, a Fisher from Fog, it's going to feel like a hard jump for your Mars, and I think that's where who they actually land with these spells, once they get the blinks up, is going to be really important, because they'd love to kill Mini 2 or 3 times right now, but he's even going for the complete defensive build. He knows there's only one way he dies in this game, and once he gets a BKB, he's immune. There is absolutely no fear for him. Aside from the TA, which is definitely a very large threat, Parker has not skipped a beat in classical Parker style. He is right up there net worth wise, top of the net worth whenever he peeks his head over and farms that ancient camp. But he's got a full deso, and like we talk about, especially with Wraith King being in the meta, it is a battle of armor. It is a battle of how tanky, how sustainable you are versus your opponents. And with how early a lot of these items are coming out from these carries, you always look at Roche now. Who gets the fight? It could be one pick, it could be 2 kills, and then suddenly Roche is dead, and then the next 10 minutes is decided just by that.
It's the exact kind of momentum shifter that Infinity might be looking for, and the item timings are perfect. They've got the Deso up, they've got dual Blink Daggers on Mariano and PP, and they just need a target. Right now they're going after that tier 1 bot. There's really no one here to defend it, so that is going to be relatively free for them, but that was the move. They brought pretty much everybody down there, and there wasn't really a fight to be had, and King of Kings recognizing everybody's down bot looking for that tower. We have an opening now to go after Roshan ourselves, and they are getting through it pretty quickly with the armor reduction. Should be able to pick it up. Mini will take the Aegis, and, well, now if you're Infinity, maybe you think twice about that window. They had Deso, they've got 2 Blinks, but you're going into Reincarnation and the Aegis on your Ember, so it's not going to be an easy play, especially, yeah, if it gets sort of caught by that. Mini with the Invis was able to scout him out, so, well, might have to wait that little bit longer to make a move. And to be honest, at this stage, you want to make plays with some of those items you picked up, but maybe it's in their best interest just to wait out this Aegis entirely.
Yeah, unfortunately, to kill that bottom tower just showed their hand a little bit too much, so they knew that there wasn't going to be a very fast response. At the very least, they're able to place some nice vision in their top jungle, which is where the Beastmaster is eventually going to fill in here. But that is going to be the name of the game, is can we kill Beastmaster? We need to actually find him, because our targets are non-existent now. There's an Aegis on the Ember Spirit. Our previous target before BKB is now just going to play completely more aggressive, completely safe. I think that's where Sexy Fat, he is just standing behind everyone. He is really going to try to keep himself as far away from this fight as possible, because he's also very aware there's really only 2 ways he dies, and that's either getting arena'd and then, okay. Oh no.
Get the spear. Mariano was there, though, for the follow-up, dropping the Echo down. They've taken out Sexy Fat. That is the start that they wanted, but now, yeah, they got to run. Pamplona's going to get run at by Mini. Should be a relatively easy kill for the Ember, as he is going to be able to finish that one off. But over in the river, Mariano unable to escape. Benny is there with the Wraithfire Blast, and, well, if you get the spear off onto the Beastmaster, maybe that kill happens a little bit faster and you can get away clean. Not entirely sure it would have guaranteed the kill that quickly, but as it stands, it's not quite the trade that they wanted. At least they find the kill, but losing 2 in the aftermath is unfortunate.
Yeah, at the very least, they did get exactly what they needed, and Benny actually speared back to the tower. It's going to be a long kill, but this is where you get him right after the Deso. He's not very tanky right now. He really only has the armlet to kind of beef himself up, so definitely needs to be considerate, but at the same time,
it's a lot of damage.
Oh, Mini
just gets slammed by Parker with that meld into the armor reduction, so, well, I understand what they were thinking, right? There were 2 heroes top and a 3rd TPing in, which means Parker had to be alone mid, but alone under a tier 2 tower is not exactly truly alone, but they're looking at another opportunity here. The 2 supports have scouted things out. They get Mariano on the backline with the root into the Ravage, but now the Solar Guardian coming into play. They're looking to reset the fight. The Roar, though, will be deployed. Parker locked down, stunned up. Big fissure from Mariano, creating separation. Benny, though, he actually can still right-click over the fissure, so Parker does go down. The defensive play from Mariano is not enough. They'll lose Prada as well, and Infinity, well, it was an interesting game plan from them. They just didn't quite account for the location of everyone, especially that Beastmaster. That Roar just ruined any plan that they had.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Parker, he himself blinked onto the low ground. I don't think he was ready for Surround to just immediately ravage him, and then the ravage into the Roar, just nothing you could do really with the TA, especially going for the Blink Dagger as opposed to immediately rushing that BKB. I hope that decision doesn't become a regret pretty soon here, because unfortunately for him, now he does need to play a lot more defensive. His opponents are really going to start cutting off these waves, and nice little kill. That's the arena play, but what is going to get traded off in return here. They got to start getting out, but I think PP might get traced, but they want a big fight. Okay.
Parker's in. Prada TP's forward. Mini, though, he's not backing off. I think he has the Remnant to jump to. Actually, he doesn't have the mana for it, so now he's really just in the fight, wants to make use of the Aegis, but they're kind of ignoring it. They take down Hane first. Benny now sort of standing strong on the front line, so they'd have to get through that Wraith King. That's not really a prospect that they are all too keen on testing, so well, they back themselves away. The tier 1 tower does get taken down, but you start off that fight with the big kill onto the Beastmaster. You get the follow-up onto Hane. All in all, it's not the perfect trade, but it is a trade that's going to go their way. But now they need to be careful. There could be a second fight breaking out. Mini gets in there for the root. Benny, follow-up stun into that Mortal Strike, and not a whole lot Prada can do about that one.
Nope, definitely not, but at least Parker is just still able to farm. He's still been the big winner for a lot of these engagements. He's just kind of doing whatever he wants, and if he can close that BKB timing, then suddenly you're gonna see the TA just immediately kill off a Tidehunter at the beginning of pretty much every single fight. But looking over at Sarem has a Blink Dagger of his own. He's found time to kind of farm for himself, and it's in a little bit of a scary spot right now, but with this Aegis reclaimed, it feels a little bit safe still for Mini. As soon as the Aegis is reclaimed, he actually has his BKB finished with 800 gold in his pocket, so it's not like he's not going to have any options whenever these fights do break out, but that's where it's still about Mariano catching his opponents off guard here. If he can find an Echo to start off any of these fights, then we can still see a big return. And as well, the name of the game hasn't changed. Find Sexy Fat at the beginning, and then suddenly these team fights look way simpler for Infinity. But okay, here we go. Tower push, and they're smoked up.
They want it. They are a little bit spread out, but Parker is holding on to that TP, so he could join the fight if they do find the initiation. And there's the fissure. There's the spear. They've got the silence to follow it up. They're through the first life. No, they're not. They didn't quite go all the way in. So Benny still standing, toggling the armlet, now looking for the engagement on the Pamplona. There's going to be the Ravage now deployed onto 2. Solar Guardian is coming in now, but by this point, PP, look at his HP. He doesn't have a lot to work with, but the fissure comes in, stunning up 4. Mini, though, still chasing into the base. BKB active. They'll take PP down. Now Parker gets hit up by the Roar, and there's no one here to back him up. That's not great. Parker dead. No buyback available. Mariano, no. He's in, but he whiffed on the timing. He ults first. He'll still find a kill onto Mini, but that's not the play that they wanted. It's just a one-for-one trade on that front, and now King of Kings, they're directly into the base. They're looking for the racks, and they are going to get it. And yeah, Mariano, that is going to happen. The 5-man tip coming his way once King of Kings realize exactly what happened to him there.
No, and it really is unfortunate. He couldn't use his Echo any sooner. He had to trust that his teammate would get his BKB up, and Parker had a BKB that entire time. He was just perfectly chain stunned up by his opponents, and 2 racks is the cost for losing right on the gates of your racks there. And unfortunately, now Roche might respawn in a minute here. It does feel like now King of Kings just have so much time, and Parker, he's gonna run into Benny. Got to be a little bit careful here, but he's got Blink. He's avoiding the traps. He's gonna be fine here. And I think that is going to be a full Hyperstone flying out towards Benny now, and that's going to be a huge leap up in his damage, in his survivability, looking towards that AC. I feel like once he gets that, we're not going to see the support struggle. We're going to see the TA struggle to find kills onto the Tidehunter, onto the Beastmaster, and then the spells get off regardless. And then if you're getting spells off on King of Kings, I feel like Infinity can't really take that right now. Ooh.
There's going to be a play onto the Weaver
Nice
here.
rules.
Follow-up stun. Spear won't hit, but they shouldn't need it. There we go. The silence lasts long enough, so no time-lapse deployed. And, well, you pick off Hane. That's got to count for something, but they need more of those or higher impact plays than that. So, see what they can do moving forward. Infinity maybe catching a little bit of a break there. An extra minute and a half on that Roshan timer, so it gives them some time to maybe reset and consider whether they want to go for the contest, as opposed to, without that extra time, they would have sort of still been sitting in their base when King of Kings would have gone for it.
No, and getting the long Roche timer does only help Infinity. It wants them farm a little bit more. Unfortunately, they're farming versus 2 super creep lanes, so they're not going to be getting the most, but at least it's pushing into them. gets a little bit safer on their side of the river, but at the same time, still very concerned, especially with Benny, who is just farming as fast as he possibly can, playing by himself really for the most of the game here, just always able to send his skeletons in on this bottom side. And now with only one Rax left, you're gonna have to have more focus in the other two lanes. So as soon as the split push happens, yep, someone immediately has to come here. And it's something that you can always kind of play around in the rotation now, because this is a Mars showing bottom. It's why they get to smoke up right now, is because such a key player is just forced to show on the map because someone's got to deal with this. And if they dig in deep and find Parker on the Ancients, that'd just be a disaster for him. That'd be almost the game.
Big
Nice
scan though, yeah. Saving the day as Infinity will immediately back themselves out, although, well, PP's not falling back all the way. Trying to rally around the tier 2, but there is a potential wraparound here. Benny was looking for it for a moment, had the blink, but they're not going to dive the tier 2s just yet, so Infinity, honestly, dodging a bullet. That gets enough time now for the Mars to finish off that BKB, so, well, that is going to look a little bit better. We've seen a couple of times PP has made the move into the fight with the Arena. The Arena has helped. They've been able to find a kill or two when he initiates, but then it's kind of signing his own death sentence, so BKB available. Maybe he can survive throughout the fight and continue dishing out damage, because that is something Infinity really do need right now, especially with Mars and Earthshaker as their other two heroes. Parker is a great damage option, but he can't be the only one.
Oh no, and with Parker's mistake there, he had, I think, accidentally popped his BKB. They immediately go into Roche, and now your team doesn't have BKB for 40 seconds. This is actually a timing that your opponents are abusing, and they do have a trap in there. I think slight mistake from King of Kings, letting that trap kind of give the vision over to Infinity, but it's going to be a game of the steal. Can you actually get this away from Benny?
The illusions, though, scouted out. They've got to go now. They've got it. PP takes it. And, well, can they get through a reincarnation on Benny? No. PP says, I'm out. I have what I want. Oh, but he's not going to get away clean. That BKB doesn't last long enough. Mini gets him with the root. And now they're going to be able to presumably take him down again. PP's just straight up trapped inside of this Roche pit. Meanwhile, Hane pushing forward with the rest of the squad. They get Mariano off to the side, and, well, you still got the steal. That's got to count for something. Without that second life for King of Kings, maybe they're a little hesitant to push for that final lane of Rax, but it would have been so much better if PP had half a second, maybe longer, on that BKB.
Yeah, and really, I think he was out, but he stayed a little bit longer to make sure he got the Aghanim Shard there. He just wanted to rob everything from his opponents, and because of that, I think he dies on that half tick. Also, incredibly timed from Mini, just having that immediate slight root, kind of playing his out there on the TP. Just a very, very unfortunate timing, because now I guess they can start to poke here. At the very least, try and get the glyph, but this is full AC on Benny. And at the same time, that Roche was not important for King of Kings. That was Mini's Aegis. Benny is still going to be able to do his job as the Wraith King, and the push is still coming. They do have everything, though.
Ooh, missed spear, but they've got the fissure block. Benny losing the first life, but look at Mini just surging onto the front line. Hane's right alongside him. Ravage going to be deployed as they caught Parker. They've got him in the tree line. They're going to be able to take the TA down. That Solar Guardian way too late from Prada. It's not going to be enough to matter. Mariano taken down. Buybacks coming through, though, from everyone on the Infinity side. They realize they need all hands on deck here. Another buyback now from Prada. But where is the actual follow-up? They haven't locked anyone down. They haven't killed anyone off. They really just don't seem to be able to do a whole lot, and the skeletons and controlled creeps are actually finishing off that final lane of Rax. So now you can't even afford to go chasing after any of these heroes. You have to remain in the base so that you don't lose that final ranged.
It's just such a bad position to be in now. And, of course, with the AC finished, Parker just does not feel like he's doing the same amount of damage that he was doing before. I can only imagine him maybe picking up a desperate crit here, just anything to try and increase his DPS output. There's a DD that PP will just peek up, but yeah.
He cannot die here. If they actually take him down, that'd be big, but the BKB coming into play, keeping him alive for the time being. Big spear from PP as well, locking down Benny. Sarem trying to jump in, but they know he already used the Ravage, but here comes Mini surging forward. They'll take Parker down. They sacrifice Sexy Fat, but if they can close out this fight, that may very well be the game. Parker dead, Mariano gone as well. PP trying to maneuver. He's got the BKB now. Could just look for the TP out. He will do so. Does make it home, but I mean, this is the problem we were talking about a little while ago. Parker is kind of the only damage dealer, and yeah, there's the GG. Without the TA, they just can't hold.
Balance.
Man, so many things just going completely right for King of Kings. I think yet again we're seeing this Weaver hero being first pick, first phase for a very, very good reason. Not banned though, because can't afford to ban it. You got to ban out the Invoker, the Queen of Pain, the Mars, all those heroes firstly, but at the same time, just kind of carried the game. I want to say he made it almost impossible for Parker to play in those early stages. He was playing in the mid lane, trying to give that bottle refill over to his Ember Spirit as much as he can in a lane that he definitely was getting kind of the short end of the stick against the Mars. And then really just, I think that both of those picks in the second phase for King of Kings, the Ember and the Beastmaster, it just wasn't a good enough answer from Infinity. I think when they slammed down the Skyrith Mage in Pamplona, he had a very quiet game, but you definitely felt his impact. He was definitely playing off of his teammates. He was trying to do whatever he can with the setup that PP and Mariana were giving him, but unfortunately, those two players just didn't play, I think, as active or as kind of clear cut as they needed to. And you're also playing on a very thin line because you are playing versus that Wraith King. You are playing versus that second life. The focus was never going to be on him. And I think it's a real reason why we see this hero valued so much, because you can't go on him. You literally have to kill everyone else and then follow up on the king. And unfortunately, he just got way too big, way too quickly. But man, that second phase, the Beastmaster as well, just really kind of spelled defeat, I think, for Infinity, because we felt even in the lane just kind of how helpless things were getting, and that was only 4 or 5 minutes in.
Yeah, it feels like for Infinity, that back end of the draft really kind of let them down. Obviously, they did the best with what they had, thought that they could maybe, forgive the pun, but shake things up with the Earthshaker selection, but it just really didn't work out for them. We talked about it being a sort of high-risk, high-reward lineup in the draft that we had some concerns about, and fortunately for Infinity, every one of those concerns turned out to actually be a real problem for them. So they come up with the short end of the stick on this one, but that is only game one of this best of 3. They've got a shot to turn things around, but might need to see a little bit of a change up in the draft strategy for them moving forward. If they put together another performance like this one, King of Kings may just be marching their way to a 2-0 sweep. So we shall see how that goes. Game 2 draft is only about 5 to 10 minutes away here, so I'm going to be stepping away for just a little bit, but when we return, we'll see if Infinity can fight their way back into this, or if King of Kings will be moving on to the upper bracket.